Okay, welcome back to Genius. All right, in the last session, I promised that I was just going to show you a quick way. Let me show you how you can actually check for how accessible your page is. There is this when you open although we are going to have another section on this, okay, on how to go about this, okay, color contrast and stuff like that. We are going to have another session, but let me just quickly show you. Now, I want to analyze this website, this our platform. I just want to analyze the accessibility. I could also do the SEO and other ones. So this is where you can come and check how good your web application is. But for now, we are just taking a look at accessibility on mobile devices. Okay. So, and if I click on analyze page now, we are going to see it is calculating for us. So it's calculating how accessible our application is, this platform is. All right, it said it came back with 90%. Okay, so but it says there were issues affecting this run of Lighthouse. There may be stored data affecting loading performance. So this has to do with loading performance. And it's another thing we also have to check. Okay, so these checks highlight opportunity to improve accessibility at your web app. So now automatic dictation can only dictate a subset, whatever. But what I'm trying to show you here is this. It says that this is 90%, which is amazing. Do you understand? This website, this platform that you're using is 90% accessible, but we can also improve on some things, okay? Look at what it's saying here. Buttons do not have an accessible name. So I can come here and see the button. Okay, look at this, my menu icon. All right, this menu icon here, it does not have an accessible name. So if I want to work on it, I can actually go and sort it out. Do you understand? So when a button doesn't have an accessible name, screen readers announce it as button, making it unusable for users. So you can see this what we are talking about. When screen readers are going through this web application now, they are just going to they are going to skip this. They will not understand this. Another issue that we also have here is that these links do not have the discernible name. Okay, so but this is what we'll take a look at later on how to check accessibility using this lighthouse. Okay, so this is by the way. All right, so I would have to close this. Okay, so this is by the way. Now in this session, let's talk about image, ARIA roles and attributes. Okay, so we start with images and accessibility. In HTML, images play a significant role in creating a visually engaging experience for users, but it's also crucial to ensure accessibility for users with disabilities. So whenever you're working with image, in as much as the image is for visual, for our visual experience, but we'd also have to include, remember inclusivity, okay? We also have to include people who are disabled. So use auth attributes for accessibility. Always use auth attributes for accessibility. The auth attribute is essential for screen readers, which are used by people with visual impairments to understand the content of an image. So whenever you have an image, always include this auth attribute. Give it a very good descriptive name, a descriptive text, okay? This attribute should describe the image or its function in the context of the content. So whenever you have an image, your auth attribute, the attribute, the value you give it should describe that image. What is the function? What is the image doing there? All right. Look at this one now. We have this company logo. All right. And we are saying this is the auth attribute is, we said is company logo. So everybody's saying this and we know that, oh, this is the company's logo. Okay. Use auth attributes for accessibility. Descriptive auth text. If the image conveys important information, describe it clearly. These are the things that can make your application top-notch. These are things that can make your application to rank well in search engines. So don't play with it. In as much as this is not more of practical, don't play with it. Empty auth test. All right, we have a descriptive auth test and we have empty auth test. If the image is purely decorative, for sometimes most of the images, some of the images we use are just for decorative purposes. They are not conveying any information. They are not conveying any message. So once you have any decorative image where you just have an image used to decorate your application, leave the auth test empty. to prevent screen readers from announcing it. So if you're having an image that does not add any information to your content, just leave the alt attribute empty. For example, this is a decorative image, and you can see the alt text was left empty, okay? Use semantic HTML for context. Use semantic HTML for context. We already know this. If the image has specific meaning, such as an icon button, ensure it is wrapped in a meaningful HTML element like button or figure. If that image, if you wonder if that image has a specific meaning, maybe it's something you're using for an icon button, wrap it inside a button element or a figure, or any element that can add more semantic meaning to it. This helps convey its purpose. So whenever you have images that convey meaningful information, you have to wrap them inside maybe a button element or a figure, or maybe okay, so this would actually help give it semantic meaning. So look at this one now. We have this button, all right, and this image is inside this button. But even this button, we also gave it a label, search. That means this is a search icon. And we are giving, look at how accessible this is. We have an image that's conveying a meaning. It has a specific meaning, and this image is for search. And we are giving it another alt text as search. It's an icon, a search icon, and we are putting it inside a semantic element button. And even this button, we're also giving it a label. Remember, we talked about ARIA labels, and we all use ARIA to make non-semantic elements to be more semantic. This time around, yes, button is semantic, but it needs a label. So we have a label, and we are putting search here. So the ARIA label provides context for button's action, which is important for accessibility. So whenever the screen reader goes through this button, they will know that, oh, the action for this button is search. It makes assistive technologies, it makes life easier for them, okay? Provide text alternatives for complex images, all right? For images like charts, graphs, or other complex content, provide a detailed description for them. This can be done using long desk, or this is deprecated but still functional in some cases, or by linking to a separate page or providing description directly in a text. So we are also going to see how we can use these ARIA labels, ARIA attributes to actually do this. You could have an image that is very complex, and you can actually have its description somewhere else. Do you understand? So you can link the image to its description. Now look at this now. If this image has an alt text, okay? If the image is complex, you can provide a detailed description. So we now have a paragraph that has this description, and we are having an anchor tag inside of it. So here we can actually, this is describing the image. So we are going to see how we can actually use ARIA attributes to actually associate these two, okay? So use ARIA hidden for decorative images, all right? When you use ARIA hidden, when images are purely decorative and do not add any content value, there's no need showing it to these people because they're not going to actually see the image. So you can use the ARIA hidden true attribute to tell assistive technologies to ignore them. Since they don't convey any meaningful content, any meaningful value, all right? There's no need. You can hide them from assistive technology so that they don't display it. All right, so this is a decorative image, and it's using this. Of course, you see the alt text is empty, and it's using ARIA hidden true. So this will be hidden from, or it should be ignored by assistive technologies. Now, the thing is that this is a lot, all right? This accessibility thing is a lot. So you don't have to cram them, but you have to start using them, understand the concept, so that when you start using them, small, they will be part of you. All right. Even me, if what I'm saying, when I'm going to be using them, I'll be revisiting this video or maybe any page. All right, so that I can really, because I can't cram them, you can't cram them, but you can make references. But the thing is that you understand the concept, you know what to use, where to use them. Okay. So even if you forget it, you can just make reference. Okay. Ensure that your images are responsive. Ensure images are responsive. Images should adjust to various screen sizes, especially for mobile users. This can be done using CSS, ensuring the image remains accessible across devices. So whenever you have an image, always make sure that these images are responsive. We'll talk about responsiveness in its own chapter later, okay? Like this image now is tied to have the maximum width of 100% and height to be auto. So this is going to be responsive because this would only align, it will take the maximum width of this image is going to be 100%, which is going to be the maximum width of its container. So whatever width the container is, that is the width it's going to take. So go back to your CSS where you get to understand all these things, okay? Provide captions and descriptions for media. When you have media like videos and audios, you can provide captions and descriptions for them. If you're embedding videos or other media, provide captions, transcript, or audio description to ensure accessibility for all your users. All right. So, example, this guy is having this subtitle. This guy is having extra description to this. Don't worry, when we talk about multimedia in HTML, we'll talk more, we'll go deeper on this. So, but for now, just understand that whenever you're using, for accessibility reasons, whenever you're using multimedia elements, you would have to make them accessible too, okay? All right, so let's go to ARIA roles and attributes. Let's see some of the ARIA roles and some of the attributes that we have. In the next session, we'll have a deeper look at them. So ARIA roles and attributes. Of course, ARIA is accessible rich internet applications. It's a set of attributes designed to make web content more accessible to people with disabilities, especially for use with non-semantic elements. These roles and attributes enhance the accessibility of dynamic content and advanced user interface control that are difficult to interpret using only native HTML. Now, sometimes you generate dynamic content or advanced user interfaces. So for you to do this, for you to do this and achieve accessibility, you have to use these roles and attributes, okay? So ARIA roles, let's take a look at some of them. The first one, ARIA roles define the type of an element, okay? So just like we have semantic elements, when we use ARIA roles, we are defining that type of element. So we are telling assistive technologies, oh, this is a button, this is a footer, this is a main element, this is a header, this is a nav, okay, something like that. So this helps assistive technologies to interpret and announce them. Remember, when you talk about semantics, your semantic elements, they let you understand their purpose. So when you use these ARIA rules, you're actually making this assistive technology understand the purpose of these elements. There are several broad categories of ARIA rules, such as landmark rules. Now, these landmark rules help users navigate the page, providing information about the structure of the page. Landmark rules, what they do basically is to let assistive technologies understand the structure of the page. Is it a header? Is it a footer? Is it a main? Something like that. Now, we have the row called banner. We have the row banner. It represents the size header. All right? We have the row navigation. It represents a navigation section. So when you have all those your navigation links, whatever you're using there, the area rows you're going to use there is going to be navigation. All right? Main, you understand what the main element is. So when you say main, you're giving this content, the main content, you're representing that. Even if you don't use the main element, which is not advisable, always use the main element. But when you say row equal to main, assistive technologies will see it as the main content of the page. When you say complementary, they see it as content that supports the main content, but it isn't essential, something like aside. Do you understand? Complementary, this row complementary is for aside. All right, they are not part of the main content. Footer represents the footer of the page. So you can see all these rows, all these landmark rows, they basically represent all those semantic elements that we use to structure our page. Okay. So example is this, the header. In this header, we are saying that this header is going to be the banner. All right. And it represents the site header. Okay. Then we now have for widgets. Now, landmark rows are for logically structuring your web page. But widgets now has to do with all those small elements that we use. So widget roles represent user interface elements that have interactive behaviors like buttons, form controls. Landmark roles do not have interactive behavior. They are just there to logically structure your web page. Okay. So when you say a role is button, it means that, oh, this is going to be a button. When you say a role is checkbox, it means that this is going to be a checkbox input. Role is link, it means it's a hyperlink, it's an anchor link. Radio button, okay. Slider represents a slider control. Excuse me. Okay, so you can see that this button, we are giving it a role of button, right? So these are widget roles. It's just for elements, not for the logical structuring of your web page, okay? Now, we also have document structure roles. These roles are used for structural elements within a document to convey their purpose. When you have something like article, it represents a self-contained piece of content. That article element that we have, this is the row article is for it. We have section elements, so the row section is for it. You already know these things. We have the row heading. Now, this represents a heading like H1, H2, H6 with an optional level. So you say row heading. So it's going to be a H1 or H6 through H6. Then you now say area level. What is the level of this heading? Is this 1? It is 2. It is 3. And it is either for, when it is 1, it's for H1. When it is 2, it is for H2. So something like that. So we have this row heading, and we also have area level to indicate whether is it level 1 or level 2 or something like that, okay? So basically, you already know these things, but what we are trying to explain here is how do you use them? We have landmark rows, we have widget rows, we have document structure rows, okay? And we have live region rows. These live region rows, they help with content that updates dynamically, notifying users when content changes. So whenever you have any content that always change, we use the live region roles. Alerts, when you say role is alert, it is used for important time-sensitive notifications. It means that this particular element will be changing. It will be updating, okay? So something like the notification icon you have on this platform that notifies you if your assignment is passed or whenever you get any message, okay? Status is used for less urgent notification. We use alert for time-sensitive, more important time-sensitive notification, but status is just used for less urgent notification. You know, status of something, it is less urgent, okay? So you can see that this deed now has a role of alert, and the message is say your message has been sent successfully. So all those notifications that we give you whenever you submit something or do something, they fall into this category because it is an alert, okay? So we take a look at some ARIA attributes. Okay, sorry for my pronunciation. ARIA, whatever you can call it. Okay, ARIA attributes enhance or modify the behavior of an element, helping users to understand the dynamic content states or changes. Now, these attributes are often used alongside roles. All right. So when you say ARIA live, it defines how live regions behave when their content changes. So you have a content that changes, that updates automatically, periodically. So you give it the role of what? Alert or status, depending on how important or how time sensitive they are. Then you can now add ARIA live. It can be used in combination with ARIA, with role alert or status. So you can now say ARIA live is polite, announces changes when the user is idle. It announces changes when the user is idle. ARIA live assertive announces changes immediately. Okay, so when you have anything that changes immediately, it should be ARIA live assertive and role alert. But when you have something that changes when the user is idle, it could be something like status, you know, just like is the user online or something, that can be status and it can be polite. Okay, so this is how we just use this thing. Like I said, you don't have to cram this thing, but just understand the concept, understand that these things exist. And whenever you find yourself using them, you can make references to this, okay? For me, I do not bother cramming all these things. Even as I'm teaching you right now, I do not bother cramming them. But I understand the concept. So whenever I want to make use of them, I could just make references, okay? So you can see that this page is being updated. It has the role of status because it is less sensitive. And the ARIA life is polite because it announces changes when the user is idle. All right. So ARIA hidden indicates whether an element should be hidden from assistive technologies. Just like we have the images and we say decorative images and we say ARIA hidden is true. All right. So this indicates whether an element should be hidden from assistive technologies. Okay. False exposes the element, true hides the element. Okay. All right. So ARIA expanded, this is used for content that can be expanded, just like your accordion. Indicates whether a collapsible element like a menu or accordion is expanded or collapsed. When we say ARIA expanded, we are saying this element is expanded. When we say false, it means it is collapsed. Okay, so this can be their states. All right. So example is button area, more information. So when we have this more information, all right, button, you can see that it can give us, we are saying this button is not collapsible. It is not collapsible. All right. It's not collapsible because it is false. All right. Area label, you already have seen it several times. It is used to give input elements, make them more accessible, providing a label for them. Okay. So when an element like this doesn't have a label, we can actually give it an area label like this. So area labeled by associates an element with another element that contains its label. Now, I can have another element, I can have a button element, and I have its label with, on another element. So I can use this thing to associate them. Let's say I don't want to add the area label on the element. I can have this label somewhere else, and I can now use the value ID. I can do it like this. The H1 has this introduction, but its label, I didn't put area label on the H2. Instead, I have a paragraph that is explaining this session. And then I said area labeled by. And I'm giving this area labeled by the value of the ID of the, just like we do label, we'll say label for. Do you understand? Here now, because we have the label different somewhere else, maybe the label is something that is more descriptive, all right? We cannot have it inside here to do area label and give it a label, but we can now have it somewhere else, maybe in a paragraph, and we can now associate them like this. It's very simple to understand, okay? Area described by. So I can have description of another element in another element. So I can now use area described by. Okay, you can see the ID of this guy is what I'm using here. So I'm saying that this guy is the one describing this input element. So all those things you could do with area, with label element, you can do with this area label, area labeled by, area described by, okay? So area controls associate a control with the content it controls, such as a drop-down menu or modal. So when you say this button and you say area controls, it's saying that, okay, this button is be controlling some other guy somewhere. So this button is controlling some other guy somewhere. Let's say now I have a modal or I have a drop down. If I click on this button, all right, it can go and have effect on another element. So that is what I'm saying here. I'm saying this button controls this div. So you can say area controls. The menu here is the ID of this div that is this button is controlling. Just on this, it is simple sense, okay? It's just common sense that we use to understand these things. It's not hard. It says when we use area controls, we are saying whatever this button is controlling. So I might have an on-click event here. And if I click this button, it might have effect on this div. So something like that, but what I'm saying might be strange to you, but when you start writing this code, you're going to understand. So whenever you have a button or an element that controls another or have effect or controls another element, you use area controls here. Area check indicates that the state of a checkbox is either true or false. So you know this already. So I can dynamically add this to whenever I click on a button on a checkbox, I can update the area checked to be true or false. All right. So when it is true, it means that the item is checked, the checkbox is checked. When it's false, it means that it is unchecked. What are the common use cases? Okay. If you're creating custom buttons or other interactive elements, use the appropriate ARIA rules. This might somehow be higher for you, advanced for you, but don't bother, you will soon get there. But when you get there, you understand that there's something called uh, ARIA rules and attributes, states and stuff like that. So you're going to understand better when we get here. So you can see that this div is having a role of button, and the on click of it is toggling something. So we can also use it on accordion, okay? And you can give this area labeled, area expanded, all this stuff. So these are the common use cases, okay? So best practices for using ARIA. Use native HTML elements first. Instead of saying div role equal to button, use a button that is meant for clickable things. Native HTML controls like button input are automatically accessible. So when you use HTML elements, you don't need to add any other ARIA attributes or rows to them. So try to use them before resorting to ARIA rows and attributes. Avoid redundant rows. Do not assign ARIA rows to elements that already have semantic meaning. Button element it has a semantic meaning. There's no need adding role to be button. Do you understand? So it's redundant. Test with assistive technologies. Always test your site with screen readers, keyboard navigation, and other accessibility tools. These are the things we can do in advance when we get more advanced, okay? So in conclusion, ARIA roles and attributes are powerful tools for improving the accessibility of your web content, especially for dynamic and complex user interfaces. They help ensure that assistive technologies can understand the structure and behavior of elements, creating a more inclusive web experience, okay? It is something that it is a must for you. Accessibility is a must. It is more skill for you, all right? So thank you very much. Do your write your test. I don't think this session has an assignment, but if it does, just write your assignment, okay? Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next session.